Hello, Ma. Sujata.
Namaste, Brother Shankara.
Namaste. And Molly. Hello, Molly. Namaste. Namaste, Nira.
Namaste, Brother Shankara. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I would like to have the Chaitanya prayer. If you can send me the email, please.
Would you remind me by sending me an email? Because it's hard for this old mind to remember things if I don't have a prompt.
Yes, I will. I will send you email.
Morning, Robert. Namaste. Morning, everyone. So many people suddenly joining.
Good morning.
Hard to say good morning to everyone all at once. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Good morning, everyone. I have to start with a bit of unhappy news. Many of you who used to attend at the chapel services when we were meeting face to face will remember Paul Rentz. Paul was a large, very well-spoken man, psychologist. He died suddenly and unexpectedly of a heart attack on Monday, January 18th. he was in his mid-60s. He had retired. His widow is preparing something for us with more details about Paul, and that may appear in next Thursday's e-newsletter. It just depends, she's in a state of grief, and they'd been married just 5 years, so very, very. Anyway, Paul is remembered very fondly here. He would very much enjoy the conversation and question and answer periods after a talk, and would often come in and spend an hour or two after a talk sitting in the library talking with us. So we'll miss him, and of course we wish him and his survivors well. Any of you have a particular memory of Paul that you'd like to share with us, email it, and we'll include that in the newsletter on Thursday. I mean that very sincerely. If any of you have a particularly important memory to you about your interactions with Paul, please email us that, and we'll include that on Thursday. We have a couple of birthday celebrations coming up, as most of you know. Swami Vivekananda's birthday celebration will be next Sunday, the 7th of February. It'll be from 11 a.m. to noon. No in-person attendance, of course. It'll be by Zoom from the chapel. Our pujari will be Aditya Chaturvedi. Then on the following Sunday, Swami Brahmananda's birthday celebration will be on the 14th. The same exact scenario, 11 a.m. to noon, Pujari Aditya Chaturvedi, and please do attend by Zoom. If any of you would like to sing for either of those birthday celebrations or during the puja, please email me about that, and we'll coordinate that with Aditya, and you will be most welcome to sing. And remember, you do not have to be a professional singer. You do not have. It is your sincerity, your heart, that carries the day, so to speak. That reminds me to turn down the volume on my phone. All right. There shouldn't be any more noises from the phone.
Wait, Brother Shankara?
Yes?
This is their moon birthday, right? Or their... Because wasn't...
No, their moon birthdays have actually, I believe, taken place. So this is their, the closest approximation to their moon birthday. Their moon birthdays either have taken place or will have taken place. Their solar, that is Gregorian calendar birthdays, are January 12th and January 21st, respectively. Thank you, Sunny. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we launch on here? Okay. January has been a month for the study of Bhakti Yoga. A Bhakti yogi, a bhakta, has a devotional relationship with God. This relationship is developed over time by study, prayer, ritual, and worship. As a bhakta, you practice giving every thought, action, emotion, perception, and tendency a Godward turn, somehow attaching that to the divine. then this is without exception, everything you are, both positive and negative, is offered to the divine presence. Your prayer as a bhakta is for the carefree self-surrender of a child in its mother or father's arms, and ultimately union with your beloved. In that state, no barrier of ego remains. The devotee becomes one with the divine presence in all-embracing love. So today's talk will complete our discussion of Bhakti Yoga for the time being. On the last 2 Sundays of February, the 21st and the 28th, we will once again review the principles and practices of Karma Yoga. Now, some of you who were attending classes heard me promise the pillars or legs of Dharma have been mentioned a number of times, because we're at the end of the Satyug, at the end of the Kali Yuga, I mean, and it's said that the bull of Dharma, the Dharma is metaphorized as a bull, will actually be legless by the end of this yuga. The last leg, the last pillar of Dharma, being truthfulness, will have been eaten away as the other 3 were. Now, the other 3, just so we'll know what we're talking about now, when we're talking about the legs or pillars of Dharma, are tapaha, shaucham, daya, and satyam. These are translated very approximately as austerity, purity, kindness or generosity of heart, and truthfulness. So as we transition over some centuries ahead into the Satyug, the golden age, we're now in the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga. It goes Iron Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age. So gold, silver, bronze, iron. In the golden age, the Satyug, the age of the era of truth, all 4 of these obtain. And so what do we mean by austerity? Austerity means the willingness to do what is necessary to distinguish the good from the pleasant and choose the good. It means exercising the discrimination to discern what deserves your attention and then putting your attention on what is deserving rather than what is undeserving. Now, none of this is dogmatic and none of it is judgmental. This is just about observing ourselves and how we actually behave. So that's the essentials of austerity. Of course, purity has many dimensions: the purity of the body, the purity of the mind, the purity of the heart. Purity is something that can be done with soap and water for the body. The soap and water for the mind is said to be, particularly in this Iron Age, the soap and water for the mind is the name of the Lord, chanting the name of the Lord. So in the Silver Age, austerity has diminished. In the Golden Age, all four are present. In the Silver Age, austerity has diminished, but there is still purity, kindness or generosity of heart, and truthfulness. That was the age of Rama, and most recently, the age of Rama. And of course, we know the story. If you know the story of Rama, we know that the question arose, and this was right at the end of this Silver Age, the question arose of Sita's purity. The Divine Mother in the form of Sita, had she been sullied, had she been somehow made impure by her experience as a prisoner of Ravana. And so that's the drama at the end of the Silver Age. And at the end of the Silver Age, purity now is diminished. And so there are only the two legs remaining. In the Bronze Age, the age that ended with Krishna's incarnation, we have the two legs of Dharma, kindness or generosity of heart, and truthfulness. And as the Bronze Age waned and transitioned into the Iron Age or Kali Yuga, the generosity of heart diminished, and we see a world of commerce and people being willing to kill one another much more readily on massive scales. And so only truthfulness remained, and as we're told by the scriptures and the commentaries on the scriptures, even truthfulness is being eaten away. So the bull of Dharma at the end of the Iron Age is actually legless. Now that sounds like a kind of hopeless situation at the end of the Iron Age. And yet, what we're told by Sri Chaitanya and Jesus and Sri Ramakrishna, three of the avatars, the incarnations of the end of the Kali Yuga, the great grace of this time is that just the knowledge of and repetition of the name of the Lord is enough to awaken you to self-realization. So we're going to talk about that from a bhakti perspective today. The topic for today is Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga. Today's talk will wind up this month's study of Bhakti Yoga. Sri Ramakrishna taught, you should remember that the heart of the devotee is the abode of God. He dwells, no doubt, in all beings, but he especially manifests himself in the heart of the devotee. The heart of the devotee is the drawing room of God. I'm going to repeat that because we're going to then follow that by a guided meditation that takes us to this drawing room. Sri Ramakrishna taught, you should remember that the heart of the devotee is the abode of God. He dwells, no doubt, in all beings, but he especially manifests himself in the heart of the devotee. The heart of the devotee is the drawing room of God. So before we start the guided meditation, are there any questions or comments about what's been said so far? All right. Now for this guided meditation, I'm just going to request you to close your eyes. Just close your eyes sitting in place and follow along as the meditation is described. As you close your eyes, you find yourself in a vast meadow, a beautiful meadow. It stretches away in every direction. Above you, a cloudless blue sky that again extends in every direction. Everything is beautiful. You hear the song of meadowlarks. You hear the buzzing of bees. It's just very calm. It's very quiet. And it is very, very beautiful. The meadow stretches away in every direction. Ahead of you, you see there is something in the meadow. You walk toward it slowly. You see it as a pond, a large pond, and there's lots of activity around the pond. There are dragonflies buzzing, butterflies coming to the flowers that grow around and in the pond. You see fish in the pond, frogs. It's a busy place. It's a lovely place. And in this pond are growing water lilies. Beautiful, beautiful water lilies. As you come up to the pond, you find that there's a water lily within reach, and you reach down and you pluck it, and you hold it up so that you can catch its scent, so that you can see its beauty. And as you do this, its beauty reminds you of the beauty of the Lord, of the beauty of the divine being. This whole place in which you find yourself, the meadow, the sky, the pond, the flower, all reminds you of the beauty of the Lord. And so you think, well, I will offer this flower to the Lord. And so you take the image of that flower and you take that image to your heart. And you enter the chamber of your heart, and there you find that little blue being the size of a thumb, seated on a throne in the center of your heart's chamber. Very beautiful, very beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful. And so you approach, you bow down, and you offer the flower. The little blue being takes the flower and holds it up. And as this happens, as the little blue being holds this flower up in front of itself, it begins to radiate. This radiation is so beautiful, so pure, so clear, so white, but it is without any heat. It's soothing. And you can see the radiation envelops the flower as this divine presence accepts the flower. The radiance surrounds the flower, but the radiance continues to grow, continues to expand until it surrounds you as well. Slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, you feel yourself completely soothed by this radiance, completely blissful in the presence of this radiance. You no longer see or experience anything but the radiance. And finally, the radiance completely envelops you and all your experience is that blissful, soothing, divine radiance. That divine radiance surrounds and penetrates you. It's all you see, it's all you feel, it's all you hear. Blissful, shining radiance. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Would anyone like to comment on their experience of the guided meditation? If you do, wonderful. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. This is a bhakta's way of being with the divine presence, this guided meditation. This is a way of directing your attention to what is said to be the truth of ourselves. And it's why Swami Vivekananda taught bhakti differs from some Western ideas of religion, in that bhakti admits no elements of fear, no being to be appeased or propitiated. There can be no fear in true love. And so long as there is the least fear, bhakti cannot even begin. The great quality of bhakti is that it cleanses the mind. The one great advantage of bhakti is that it is the easiest and most natural way to reach the great divine end in view. The path of devotion is natural and pleasant. It is a longer way, yet at its end, the bhakta says, "Thine am I forever. Henceforth, whatever I do, it is thou doing it. No more is there any me or mine." Now you can see how, if you repeat that guided meditation, you can come to this place. You have been surrounded by the radiance. You have been enveloped. You have been immersed in that divine radiance. And so it's very natural to say, "Thine am I forever. Henceforth, whatever I do, it is thou doing it. No more is there any me or mine." So for the rest of the hour, we'll explore and discuss these ideas in more detail. Before we do, is there any comment or question about what's been said or done so far? Okay.
I wanted to say something.
Yes, please, Marla.
Yes, it was a lovely meditation. I really love it. And I really feel like my whole energy field just expanded and opened up and vibrated at, a much more intense sort of field around me. I had one question, though, about the blue being in the heart. Could you speak more about that?
Yes, this is from the Upanishads. And it's something you can actually experience if you visualize it. It is said that in the spiritual heart center, not the physical heart, of course, but in the spiritual heart center, there is a dwelling. It's imaged in various ways. You can imagine it however you like, whatever is most beautiful and attractive to you. But the Upanishads tell us that the being that dwells there is blue, very intense blue, and of the size of your thumb. Now that is the divine presence that at conception of a human being, or for that matter, any living creature, that divine presence, which of course extends forever in every direction, but somehow gets pulled up, if you will, like pulling up a scarf through your hand, through your fingers. That little blue being is what is surrounded by the elements of Maya. Gunas, karma, all that conversation about what it is that surrounds it, that results in the birth of a human being or other living being. So that little blue being is said to be one with the divine presence. At the same time, it is somehow individuated as the living being, as the manifest being. Does that make sense, Marla? Is that clear? Okay. Very, very good question. Who is that blue being? So anything else?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, please speak up.
I just loved how the blue being, the divine presence, was already there, and we just discovered it. That was a beautiful realization for me this morning. So thank you very much.
Oh, good. Jai, jai, jai. I'm very, very glad that worked for you.
Brother Shankara, this is Keith.
Yes, Keith.
So I'm assuming the blue being is the Atman.
Well, that's another way of talking about it. There's all of these descriptions that come from various spiritual disciplines, spiritual tracks. So as Swami Vivekananda used to say, don't worry about it too much. It's a distinction without a difference. You will understand as you make it your own. So the short answer is yes, with qualifications.
Yeah, definitely felt an energy shift, almost a consciousness shift.
Yeah.
So consider that stolen. We'll be using that regularly.
Well, repeat it. This talk will be online soon. And if you want to go back to it and let the guided meditation repeat for you, it'll be there. So you can do it again and again as you see fit until you make it your own. And if you do make it your own and continue to practice it, the results are really quite remarkable. That shining presence, that shining light becomes a reality that is, as I said, your own. Anyone else? All right. As Swami Vivekananda said, the great quality of bhakti is that it cleanses the mind. One of the greatest Swamis I've ever heard talk about this is Swami Sridharanandaji. This saintly Swami now heads the Ramakrishna mission's work in Australia and New Zealand. Previously, he served as the head of the Sri Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission Sevashrama in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, India. And he also was responsible for building the truly remarkable temple that exists in Lucknow. But it was the Sevashrama, the service, medical and educational services to the those who could not otherwise afford medical or educational services. That was the glory of his work there. Swami Sridharananda said this on what it means to cleanse the mind. Slowly and slowly, I am has to be converted to he is. We generally always express and experience and feel that I am. Now, what we need to do is to start by saying I am and he is. And slowly, the awareness of his presence overwhelms the awareness of my amness. The truth is, when I say I am, in actuality, I am experiencing his presence. Yet because the reflective material within ourselves, our mind, is dirty, so the reflection of the divinity within becomes deformed, distorted, and mutilated. That is why the concept of I am is experienced by us as experienced by us all the time. The awareness of I amness has to be converted to he is. I don't exist. He is. He exists. And by the way, for those of you who are oriented in this direction, just substitute he with she. It makes no difference. She is. This awareness of I amness has to be converted to she is. I don't exist. She is. She exists. That can only happen by purification of the reflective material, which is the inner organ known as the mind. So what is purification? Swami Prabhavananda speaks about that in a talk on devotion. Swami Prabhavananda was my teacher. Swami Prabhavananda headed the Vedanta Society of Southern California from its inception in 1929 until July 4th, 1976. He was, by all accounts, an illumined soul. And this is what he said about purification. When we begin to think of God, everything else gradually becomes tasteless. The path of devotion is really wonderful in this way. You don't have to struggle to gain self-control or anything of the kind. You have only to think of God. Try to love him. Pray that you may love him. And all the baser things of life fall away from you automatically. Now, I'm going to read that again because it's a startling statement. When we begin to think of God, everything else gradually becomes tasteless. The path of devotion is really wonderful in this way. You don't have to struggle to gain self-control or anything of the kind. You only have to think of God, try to love him, pray that you may love him, and all the baser things of life fall away from you automatically. Now, that Swami metaphorized it this way. We live in the West, the land of death and rebirth, the land of the setting sun. But when we turn inward, when we turn inward, we see the land of the rising sun. We see that brilliant light. And it is attractive. It is more attractive than this constant settingness, this constant dying away. And so we begin to move toward that shining light in the east, the land of illumination, the land of fulfillment, the land of promise. And we find that, of course, there are things that are trying to hold us back. Our habits are this or that. Swami said, don't worry about any of those things at all. Don't worry about any of those things at all. Just focus your attention on that light in the east and continue to move toward it. You will automatically, the same word that he uses here, you will automatically leave behind the things of the West. They will try to cling to you, but you'll say, no, I'm going there. I'm not content here. I want that. I want that. And so slowly and slowly, but automatically, this is the glory of what Swami says, is the glory of bhakti, of the bhakta's path. I'll read it again, what he says. When we begin to think of God, everything else becomes tasteless. Thinking of God is seeing that light in the east and saying, that is what I want, and moving toward that. When we begin to think of God, everything else gradually becomes tasteless. The path of devotion is really wonderful in this way. You don't have to struggle to gain self-control or anything of the kind. You only have to think of God, try to love him, pray that you may love him, and all the baser things of life fall away from you automatically. Now, that's such a startling statement that I want people to be able to discuss it and assimilate it. If there's something to say, if there's a question to ask, please do.
Yeah, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Sonny.
I wanted to comment. I feel like there are two relationships. I mean, first off, I guess it reminds me a little bit of Krishna and Arjuna's relationship, in how I guess Arjuna was always taught as a warrior, not only to be brave, but also to have self-control and austerity and restraint.
Mm-hmm.
And but I guess Krishna was telling him that not necessarily. I don't know the full story of the Gita, but in some sense, you can clarify for me that Krishna was telling him that it's important for you to, devote yourself to me, in terms of your actions. And then, yeah, I don't remember the full story.
What you're referring to is chapters 3 and 4 of the Gita, and Sri Krishna telling. Now, mind you, this is from an earlier age, and Sri Krishna was teaching the great value of karma yoga. There's so many parallels and so many overlaps between them. I'm going to talk about karma yoga as if I were talking about bhakti yoga here. But what he's saying is, offer everything to me. Turn your attention fully to me. Offer your life and everything that it contains to me, every moment. And if you do, even a little practice of that will save you from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. For exactly the same reason that Swami Prabhavananda just mentioned. What happens when we turn that direction and we begin to really focus our attention that direction, it is more fulfilling than any of what the Swami referred to, Prabhavananda referred to, as the baser things of life. Notice there's no judgment in this. It's just a fact. This is baser than that. So it's not as if we're wrong for living, before we begin this journey, living in the more basic ways. No. But when we get that glimpse, when we get that feeling, then, as Sri Krishna says to Arjuna a little bit later on, turn to me in utter devotion, and all of this baser business, all of your past, I don't even see that. Turn to me in utter devotion. I see no sinner. Holiness itself shall transform you. And that's exactly what the Swami is saying here. If you head that direction, and it's what Sri Dharananda has also said, if you head that direction, the power of the divine, if you pray, let me love you, let me be with you, let this be who and what exists for me.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Uma.
I personally interpret what you said. First, the image, the metaphor of beautiful, radiant light, that wonderful, peaceful environment, pond, the lotus, which is a symbol of the presence of God in our heart.
Yes.
All that is truly wonderful to align your attention to that divine being,
Yes.
that is blue light. And I think in Indian context, blue light can represent Krishna, who was dark God, dark blue. But apart from that, the way I interpret that as you go nearer and nearer to that center of bhakti, or approach of bhakti, all other things do not just become tasteless. For me, everything becomes more alive, more meaningful. You see beauty, you see God in sunlight, in sunrise, in children, in whatever sattvic activities, which are not tamasic or rajasic. So that is one way of looking at things. And the other things, I think, will not just disappear, but will go in background. Like when an expert photographer, when he takes picture, he focuses on one particular thing or feature, and other things are there, but they do not matter. So
they're out of focus.
Out of focus.
The thing
Exactly.
that is being photographed in the foreground is in focus.
Yes.
And
So
those things in the background, for a skilled photographer
right.
with the right kind of camera,
Right.
they can do that. You're right.
So to me, suppose you're suffering from some illness, even in grief, it becomes more bearable, hopefully, when you're tuned in to God. And that's what we read about Ramakrishna.
As Swami Prabhupada said, even when you're ill, you can make japam. Even when you're ill, you can chant the name.
So that comforts, that takes your attention away from your physical pain and aligns you to God. So, and everything becomes alive, joyful, peaceful, lovely when you are tuned in to God.
That is the testimony of the saints. There is no two ways about it. If you read that book, Love Poems from God, you'll hear about it over and over.
Thank you.
So thank you, Uma. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
All right, back to Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda. The one great advantage of bhakti is that it is the easiest and most natural way to reach the great divine end in view. The path of devotion is natural and pleasant. It is a longer way. Yet, at its end, the bhakta says, "Thine am I forever. Henceforth, whatever I do, is thou doing it. No more is there any me or mine." How is this blissful state? Now, this is no longer the Swami. This is the question I'm posing. How is this blissful state of surrender to and union with the divine achieved? This selfless state. Swami Prabhupada again. What are the spiritual disciplines on the path of devotion? Chanting the name of the Lord, meditating on him, and this guided meditation we just did was a very clear way of meditating on him. So that, just in case you're wondering what is meant by that, there are many ways, but that guided meditation was one way. So what are the spiritual disciplines on the path of devotion? Chanting the name of the Lord, meditating on him, serving him in others, learning to see God in others, and serving the God within them. And as I've said over and over, in the beginning, that's a stand you take. It doesn't have to be a reality for you before you can begin to act that way. Serving him in others, learning to see God in others by taking a stand for it and serving the God within them. These are the preparatory methods and means. Of course, you have to have ethical principles also, truthfulness, chastity, freedom from greed, things like that. But here's the point. If you can just chant the name of the Lord and think of God and meditate on Him, your life naturally becomes ethical. You don't have to struggle to have self-control. The mind, the more we advance toward God, the less craving we have for the objects of the senses. So I'm going to read that again, and that'll be the last word until our conversation. So what are the spiritual disciplines on the path of devotion? What are these things that cleanse the mind? What is it that changes from I am to I am and he is to finally only he or she or he is? How does that happen? What are the spiritual disciplines on the path of devotion? Chanting the name of the Lord, meditating on Him, serving Him in others, learning to see God in others and serving the God within them. These are the preparatory methods and means. Of course, you have to have ethical principles also, truthfulness, chastity, freedom from greed, things like that. But here is the point. If you can just chant the name of the Lord and think of God and meditate on Him, your life naturally becomes ethical. You don't have to struggle to have self-control. The more we advance toward God, the more we move toward that light in the east, the more we advance toward God, the less craving we have for objects of the senses, the things of the West. By the way, if you want to find that, it's in Swami Prabhuvananda's book, Realizing God. Just a word about chastity. Chastity does not mean celibacy. For a monastic, it means celibacy. For everybody else, it means being true to your loved one. And the sweet relationship you have with them. That's what chastity means for someone who's in relationship. The reason I mention that is it often comes up as a question.
But Brother Shankara, on that note, what if you don't have a significant other?
Well, if you don't have a significant other, then just be very, very careful in how you treat people that you do have more casual relationships with. Be very aware of their sacredness, and not let selfishness take the place of love. Is that clear?
Very clear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara. Oh, you can go. You can go.
Okay, it's okay.
No, you can go. I already went a few times before.
Okay. Bhagirath, what is it you have to say, dear?
You know, today's discussion and the thinking it induces gives us a sense of direction. What I was thinking, of course, there are many aphorisms which Krishna, with his divine power, tells us. But one thing he says, Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam buddheshe junatishthati, that God decides in the heart of all biological beings. He does not distinguish between human and non-human. And the other biological things, like Mara was telling last time, they they give us a message of interdependence. One cannot exist without the other. And therefore, the entire purpose is to support life. Now, this life, is it body? If it is body, then the question of significant other comes. But if it is heart, then there is no significant other. That itself is significance. Okay,
Well said.
so if that is how it is, then I was thinking that when you say towards that light, at least I wanted to clarify within me, others might think differently, that that light is not what we call photo in scientific world. It is not a quality of light the way the physicians understand. The quality of light is the way in which a person spiritually inclined understands. So that means this light does not have any physical quality whatsoever, like the light contains, but instead it becomes gnosis, Gnosis. It becomes knowledge. Light is knowledge, tranquility, self-awareness, a deeper consciousness. So therefore, when we look upon a light, we do not look upon the light in the way normally we do. We do talk about an internal illumination rather than the physical quality of life.
Amen.
If that does not come, then we'll be searching somewhere and we will need darkness around so that we can appreciate light. But we do not need that for the kind of light that you are talking about.
No.
Because it is shadow. Even in the middle of the dark night, you'll be able to see the sun if you want to. That is the power a spiritual thinking induces within you. And then comes the relationship with the body. Because it is the business of the body to divert your attention all the time.
Yes.
Because the body, it is the nature of the body to strive towards survival. So that if you are ill at ease body-wise, you might not be able to concentrate mind-wise. But this is optional. They are not intertwined. They are related, but not intertwined. Therefore, the brilliant example is of Sri Ramakrishna. I tell you as a physician, if you have a laryngeal cancer, cancer of the voice box, to the extent that you cannot eat, swallow, or anything, or even speak, at that time, when he's told that eat something, he says, when everyone is eating, it teaches my body anyway. What is the use of my food and my eating? That he eliminated the constantly interfering distance between the mind and the body. Yeah. That elimination, if you do not attain, then perhaps even japa will not help you. Well, because japa also has a prerequisite of a tranquil mind.
Sri Ramakrishna, of course, was beyond exceptionable. I mean, beyond exception, and he just he was no longer a physical being by the end of his life. He was something that's unimaginable to us. But you're absolutely right. He transcended all that and made it possible for us to think in those terms. Thank you, Bhagarath. Sunny, did you have something?
Yes. So touching upon what Bhagarath was saying in terms of separation of body and mind, and I just wanted to share a quote that I feel like epitomizes this notion of I am turning to he is. And it was a quote here. Let me pull it up. it was when Lord Ram gave Hanuman a quizzical look and said, "What are you, a monkey or a man?" And Hanuman bowed his head. He said, "When I do not know you, when I do not know who I am, I serve you. And when I do know who I am, you and I are one."
Yes.
This was just, I don't know, this was something I heard from Ram Dass, and it was very powerful when I first heard it. Could you, I don't know, do you think it's quite understandable from first look, or can you expound upon it?
What Hanuman does is give us all three schools, if you will, in one statement, because there's more to, at least in some iterations of this, there's more than one. There's more than two statements. Hanuman gives us dualism, qualified non-dualism, and Advaita non-dualism. He said, when I think of myself as your servant, I am Hanuman, you are Rama, and I serve you. I take your name. When I am in meditation, I see, and he's talking about what we would call savikalpa samadhi. When I'm in meditation, I see that you are the whole and I am a part. There's still the experiencer and the experienced. When I go to the highest, I see that you and I are one. You are Hanuman and I am Rama. Now, this is a way of talking about the Advaita state. And of course, he's just gesturing toward the truth of the realization that he experiences there. So it's all three ways of being. The bhakta's state of being, the one we're talking about today, tracks that exactly. You start in a dualistic state. You go to this place of savikalpa samadhi. And for those of you for which this guided meditation worked today, there was a glimpse, a taste of that, where you're still experiencing, but there's only the light. There's only the divine presence. You see that, oh, I am immersed in, I am part of that divine presence. Of course, we can't say anything about nirvikalpa because there's no experiencer there. As Jesus Christ put it, it is the peace that passeth all understanding. There is no conceptualization possible because there's no conceptualizer. There's no left mind left. There's no mind left. So the full state of I am is dualistic. The full state of I am and she is qualified non-dualism. He and or she is alone. That's non-dualism. So the bhakta's path takes us from the dualistic to the qualified non-dualistic to the ultimate state of that child in its mother's arms. That's the qualified non-dualism. The final state is union, and there's no longer any distinction because there's no longer any distinguisher. That's the best I can do, Sonny.
No, you did great.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything?
Brother Chuck,
Okay.
Yes, Robert.
during the guided meditation, you use the color white as a metaphor for purification or purity. And I think at this day and time, it's not a good idea to use color, because with color, I mean, there can be determination in color, and there can also be purity, and it can all both exist in every color, and both exist in everything that we do.
Oh, Robert, you're so right. You're so right. And
So
that's why Meister Eckhart said, language has taken an oath to deceive.
yeah.
And I
Well,
certainly meant nothing but.
I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you didn't. I didn't mention it for that reason. But in our history, our past, we have things that are there that we're not all the time aware of.
Oh, amen.
That influence that come out in subtle ways like this, and I noticed that no one else in this group picked that up, or at least they didn't speak on it. And I didn't speak on it earlier because I wanted to wait and see if anybody else,
Well,
picked it up.
I did. Robert,
Go ahead. Sid.
just some things about, I'm going to be the quote police for a second, Brother Shankara. I love that quote that you've been quoting about language has taken an oath, but he doesn't say to deceive. He says language has taken an oath to fail, to describe him is what it says. Mm-hmm. So it's taken an oath to fail, not so much to deceive. I feel like there's a difference. Just like with colors, language is so powerful. And, if we'll remember, for instance, white is actually not a color. It is the absence. Pure white is the absence of color.
Oh, yeah.
Black, on the other hand, is a combination of all the colors in the universe. So, and the things about purity and, representing one color or another does vary from culture to culture anyway. So, that always pricks my brain a little bit when I hear that.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to understand more about the power of what Robert was just saying, read Barbara Brown Taylor's book, Learning to Walk in the Dark. Learning to Walk in the Dark. And she talks about our Western language bias, and therefore our concept bias about the colors, the idea of white, the idea of light and whiteness and dark. I strongly recommend that book, Learning to Walk in the Dark, by Barbara Brown Taylor. She is, by the way, an Episcopal priest and taught comparative religion at Piedmont College for decades, and really knows whereof she speaks, and is a absolutely phenomenally good writer. Anything else from anyone?
I just wanted to say, if I could,
please,
that when you are all in your bodies, you are a very good-looking group of people, and when you are not in your bodies, you are transcendent of this world. And when you are transcendent of this world, we are all one, and feeling the joy of that. So I just wanted to say hello to you. And I've known some of you in the past. I see familiar names. It's the first time I visited, so I don't mean to take the headlamp here, but I just wanted to say hello and share your blessing to myself.
Oh my God, how good of you to come, Ananta.
Yes.
This is the head of the say the words.
It's called SRV, Sharda Ramakrishna Vivekananda. Maybe you have all heard of them.
Yes, and he's in upstate New York, and he's the head.
If I can go on, I'll introduce myself fast to just.
Okay, please.
I was in Atlanta for 2 years in 85 to 87 in Shankara's position. I know Uma and Robert and Bhagirath, and I don't think I met Cindy then, but I may know others of you. And then after that, I came, and you can see I'm not really sitting in the temple behind me. That's a green screen, but that is the temple that I've been living at and running since 1988. And before that, I, of course, lived in Ganges. I'm a student of Swami Vivekananda and was a Swami in the Ramakrishna order, blah, 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 right? All these
brother disciple of
form to make all things confusing and make one thing better than another or less than another because we have names and labels put on us, right? You know?
Right.
But I just wanted to say hi and much love to all of you.
We're so glad to see you. Yes, he's a brother disciple of our beloved Dhruva, who many of you know, and also of Swami Atmarupananda,
yes,
who was at that time known as Prahlad.
And I lived with Swami Yogesananda for almost 10 years as well.
Yes, Buddha Chaitanya was Swami Yogesananda's pre-sannyas name. And so these fellows go way back.
Shankara, I want to add, first of all, it was such a joy to see you. And we remember you as Swami Atmavratananda.
Atmavratananda, yes.
Atmavratananda, or if you're Bengali, Atmavratananda.
I'm calling you Atmavratananda, but we had the most pleasant memories of your being with us at our center. And I very much love to see you again coming here to visit us.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. If I can ever leave my llamas and my dogs and my cats, that's possible that can happen. I know Swarna Shah has repeatedly asked me to come down there and say hello, and it would be nice.
And Ananta has been invited here as well.
Yes, Shankara.
Bruce, bring the critters. We love animals.
All right, I'll put my llamas on board. Believe me.
That would be quite an arc that he would float down to us.
As a fun little statement, when I lived there for the 2 years, most of the 2 years, I lived in a beautiful little house. I'm not even sure if it's the man who owned it, Dan Pfeiffer, is still alive. He was a devotee many years ago, but it was in, of all places, Pine Lake. The place where you have to drive very slow when you go by, or you'll fund the town by getting a ticket. But we had a beautiful little house there for 2 years, and that was before Swami Yogesananda's, I guess you could say, second coming to Atlanta, when he built the house that I believe you're living in now, Shankaraji.
And didn't build, but buy, yes, remodeled.
Remodeled. He was the impetus to buy it, I think, yes.
Yeah, they bought it in 1999 and then later on built the chapel, 2004, 2005. And then the Swami said, enough already, and retired to, in 2008, he retired to Trabuco.
Thank you. Of course, if I may, just because it came into my mind, instead of coming to Atlanta, maybe we could talk about, I could do a Zoom meeting on a Sunday like this, and then I wouldn't have to come.
You're on.
You guys could all ask me questions that I would love to be radicalized and radicalize everyone.
All right.
Enough of following these rules and regulations, right? You know?
Yes,
Anyway, I will be quiet. Thank you for allowing me in your presence. You had no choice, but
Well,
I'll let you all talk.
Well, you'd be surprised, Ananta. Cindy has a button. So we're glad to have you.
I love it.
And so
I love it. Well, thank
but
you.
we-
Bless your hearts, bless mine. May Ramakrishna bless everybody.
yes, indeed.
And Robert, I
will
love
indeed
your rainbow blanket behind you. Robert Ayers, I love your rainbow blanket I see in that chair.
Yes, I brought that all the way from Mexico on my motorcycle.
Nice.
And you should see
Someone
his
I saw
motorcycle.
had a
That is some
beautiful
motorcycle.
picture of Machu Picchu too. I'm not
Yeah,
sure who.
That's Keith.
Keith. I've
Keith
been to
had his
Peru many
picture of Machu
times, and that's
Picchu there.
I've been to Peru many times, and that tradition is part and parcel of my life and experience now.
That's something we should talk about sometime.
I'd be happy to.
All
Thank you.
right,
Bless your hearts. Hi, Cindy.
Anything else from anyone, my dears? What a delightful interlude that Swami Atmavratananda or Ananta or Bruce Hilliger decided to come and see us. That was really a joy.
Brother Shankara, I just wanted to add one point in several things you mentioned. Japam, meditation, serving others, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That is surrender of your ego to God. And I think you did not spell it out, but you implied it when you said that from I, you move on to thou. So that cannot happen without your total elimination of the sense of I, and I am this and I am that. I am the doer. So I think it is implied. Am I correct?
Oh, it is not only implied; it is the goal in view. But just exactly what that is in practice is very, very hard to describe. Many have tried, and because it isn't, if you remain embodied, you continue to look as if you are an ordinary human being until one looks a little closer, and then you see that there's practically nothing that that person does that is self-interested, which is, a unique kind of way to be, and you find it in some very few people. But it is actually specifically mentioned in the discussion of what happens to a bhakta at the beginning.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? All right.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
This is Tasha. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed today in the message, and I attended the Vedanta Center a while back, and so I'm very happy to be able to return. And I've been following I've been receiving the emails, and so I said finally I can set some time to actually join. And so I'm just really grateful for today and for you and for everyone here.
Well,
Happy
Tasha,
to see
welcome
you.
back. You're very much remembered. We remember you. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
you were mentioned maybe just a few weeks ago in some discussion of people who used to come and didn't come anymore.
Oh, wow.
So welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's so, of course, wonderful when when what happens resonates with someone. So anything else before we close?
Brother Shankara, I just want to make one comment from Swami Yogatmananda of Rhode Island.
Oh, yes.
When he came to our center in November of 2019, he said one thing, let us not hold to the external, but hold on to the internal sameness. We are all one. Animal crackers are in different shapes and different names, but they are all made out of the same dough. That's how we are. This is called spirituality.
Yes, we'll leave it to Swami Vivekananda to come up with such a wonderful and homely metaphor. We're all made of the same dough. Animal crackers look different, and anybody who wants to hear a fun song, just go on YouTube and find Shirley Temple singing "Animal Crackers in My Soup." All right, dears. Anything else? Thank you, Haima.
Discussion today. And
all right, we'll close with our.
And your
Hmm?
Your yoga, that meditation, guided meditation was blissful today, Brother Shankara. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad, dear.
Thank
you. I'm so glad. Yes, that is a wonderful place to go, isn't it? And as was said, it will, because it's recorded, it will be online for anybody who wants to repeat it. They can just go and just play that part and until you've made it your own, if you so desire. Any last thought from anyone? Okay.
Where are the refreshments?
Ah, yes, indeed. Where are the refreshments?
How does Zoom work for refreshments? Did anyone bring ladus, jalebees,
well,
mango lassi?
Normally the table would
what kind
be
of place
laden.
is this with refreshments?
Normally the table would be laden with that exact sort of thing, but we'll just have to conjure it up in our imagination or head to the refrigerator, one or the other.
And everybody get your vaccines as soon as they're available so we can meet together and eat on Sundays again.
Yes, indeed.
We have taken one. We are waiting for the second dose.
Oh, good.
Good for you, dears.
Okay.
Okay. We'll close with our wonderful translation of this ancient prayer by Swami Yogananda. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. And we can't salute one another in the parking lot, but Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May you go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. And may you have peace of mind. And once again, Ananta, thank you for dropping in. And we'll hope to see you here. I know it's very hard for you to get away because of your ark full of animals there. But if you can find somebody to come and care for them, well, come and see us. You'll be most welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone at the last minute here? All right. Until tomorrow night, if anybody wants to join us for the conversation about the book Love Poems from God, we're just finishing up the poems of Meister Eckhart, and so that's the next opportunity. Then Tuesday, of course, we study at 8 o'clock in the evening, Holy Mother's Life. Wednesday, Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, and so on. So I'm going to click the button now. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Much love.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.